As spawning in the top left-hand corner of Pylon, we have the South Korean Terran player, we have the blue Terran representing Team Vitality, it is Maru. And spawning in the bottom right-hand corner, we have his opponent, we have the red Protoss player, the red Protoss player himself. No longer retired? Question mark, maybe. Is this return going to be permanent or is this a temporary thing? Hard to say. Regardless, is here. He's made it all the way to the qualifying match. It is a NightMare. And if you're in the chat, predictions are now open. Place your bets on who you think will claim the series. Will it go the way of Maru? Will it go the way of NightMare? Again, I feel like a lot of this depends on whether or not NightMare has been watching much StarCraft, whether or not he's aware of Maru's tendencies. As I mentioned before, Maru, he's, I would say, currently in 2025, has become a very predictable player. We did take note of that in EWC. We saw that at GSL. We saw that DreamHack Dallas as well. So we'll see if Maru does change things up here or not. I mean, first things first, we're on Pylon, so we're expecting aggression, but it could go from either, it could come from either player. We spoke about that in the Creator series, how Creator on Pylon was able to hit Percival before Percival could actually get into his own 2-base all-in. Remember, Percival, he was waiting for his tank production, waiting for his Cloak Banshees, and now he was waiting for that to come online. We saw that Creator shut him down. We'll see if NightMare is also going to be proactive. I'm worried that he won't be. But again, keep an eye on our players. So now, economic opener out of Maru, does claim his natural. Crazy that Terran is de facto all-in despite having done that amount of economic damage. What a meta. If you recall, a lot of that comes down to the play style of Percival. If I didn't make that clear, I do apologize, but you might not actually watch much Percival. But as you mentioned, he's known for 2-base all-ins. That's why we expected a 2-base all-in every game out of Percival in this series. That's just how he does approach the game. That is not how all Terran players approach the game. There are some Terran players that are much more macro-oriented, like Bjorn. Like, I would point to Bjorn, I would point to Clem. There are other players out there that do embrace their third CCs and go into a longer game a lot more freely, a lot more willingly, and that's typically where they thrive. But specifically for Percival, like, no, we were always expecting like 2-base play out of him. So I tried to emphasize that. If I failed to do so, I do apologize. Go. So just catching up with the chat. Behind this, we have initial mind drop plays getting set up here from Maru. So economic opener into a mind drop. Meanwhile, how many gateways are we building up on? Here we have 3 gates. So 3-gate blink into a robo. So a very safe play here out of NightMare. We'll see if we can keep up with the Hellion harass with the drop play of Maru. Let's go. Seeing a lot of all-ins out of Terran in this meta. If so, then you haven't been watching in recent times. I would say that the all-in meta from Terran was maybe like 3 months ago. Did spark pre-DreamHack Dallas, so that was GSL Season 1 coming into DreamHack Dallas, and then it died out after DreamHack Dallas. If you haven't been watching much TvP. But there are some players that, of course, are a lot more adamant about that style regardless. Like I was referring to Percival, and I was referring to Maru as well. As Maru pokes in, gets a probe kill, does pull away. Maru also all-in RSL and GSL versus that's what we were referring to. I was referring to his performance at GSL. I know, nice cleanup here. RSL was pre-EWC, referring to that. That's again specific to Maru. That's why we were saying that he's a little bit more one note. Speaking of, he does pull the boys. So we're going to be pulling the boys here. Maru, he is committing to his 2-base all-in. NightMare, it's important that he does engage ahead of time, and he will try to slow this down. Does find a Marine. Charges on the way. We have Storm going to be on the way as well. We're taking up a little bit too much here because this army does hit earlier. Yeah, NightMare, this would be ideal against something like a stim timing. Against like a 2-base stim all-in, this would be ideal here for NightMare, where this hits so much faster. This hits so much faster instead. NightMare tries to slow this down, does get some Marines. Tank does siege, does force the early siege. Not bad. He's slowing Maru down. He's slowing him down. Bunker's going to be on the way. Immortal has arrived. If he can get on top of that tank, he blinks in. He gets one. He gets one tank so far, but he doesn't get the other. Yeah, the other tank does survive. Stalkers are getting low. Another tank comes in to reinforce. And NightMare trying to engage ahead of time, but again, there are Marines here to support. It gets the second tank, but he loses almost every Stalker. There's so many Stalkers go down. Yeah, it takes down the Immortal as well. It takes down the final tank. Marines, they're moving in. Remember, these are villain Marines. And you can see here that the tech of the Temple Archives just didn't come into play. This was a misread here out of NightMare. It was quote-unquote safe play, but for the different kind of all-in. And with that, Maru's done it. Maru, he breaks the natural. There's no mining whatsoever. NightMare is on one base. Takes down all the Zealots. Takes down the Zealots. Gets on top of the Robo. Brings this down as well. Now, NightMare, he did preserve his probes, that is true, was able to pull back. And with these charge ults, hey, he's once again trying to get on top of that tank, but he just, he can't. So it's not going to happen. Doesn't get on top of the tank. The Stalkers go down, every Zealot as well. And Maru, he will break that natural. I don't blame NightMare for going for his build of choice. If you recall, that was the same build he went for against his previous opponent, against Ryung. Against Ryung is what he went for. But as we mentioned, like, sure, it was 2-base play, but it was very tech-heavy, and it hit so much later. NightMare's build, I mean. Would hit a little later. GG gets called, takes down the Nexus, and Maru takes game number 1. Whew, GG, well played. Maru does take a lead in the series, and again, this is where Maru's at his strongest, on Pylon. We did mention Pylon. This is where 2-base all-ins, they hit so fast and so hard. Winding it back, just because it was a little bit frantic, I saw what was happening. NightMare, he was going 2-base Storm. He was going 2-base Storm, going up to 3 gateways, going for Charge, going for Blink, going for the Robo, going for Storm. The problem with that is that is ideal against these later 2-base all-ins that do come in with extra workers, with Stim, with a bit of a larger army. Meanwhile, we saw that Maru, he went for a Beyond move out. He went for a stimless all-in instead. No stim, just vanilla Marines, and the main DPS comes from the tanks and from the Banshees. And because of that, it hits faster. Because you're not waiting for any upgrades. It hits even faster, not just the build, but also on Pylon as well. So it hits even faster on Pylon. And we saw that because of that, all this tech that NightMare was investing into, with the Temple Archives, with Storm, was never going to come into play. It's never going to come into play, and here we go. We're now getting into our next game, getting into game number 2. And spawning in the top right-hand corner of Leylines, we have the South Korean Terran player. We have the blue Terran representing Team Vitality, leading the series 1-0. It is Maru. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Protoss player. Down in the series, we'll see if he can bounce back. It is NightMare. As we're moving out with 1, and with a second SCV as well. Here we go, we're going for our 2-rack setup. But NightMare, oh, he sees the SCV. He does spot the initial SCV. Does he notice so? Does he know what he saw? As Maru, he does actually readjust the path of his second worker. He does avoid the probe. Does move out. And setting up the proxy in the center of the map. So nice adaptation here from Maru. Let's go. Isn't charge first a perfect counter to such builds? Yes. Charge-based openers are hyper safe. Basically, if you assume that your opponent is gonna go for a two base all-in that's tank-based that hits even faster, then rushing into charge instead of blink is almost a hard counter. Which is why we have seen a rise in popularity of charge-based openers in the meta as of late. Depending on the map, depending on the series, depending on your opponents, but we have seen it more often from players like Hero, from Classic, from Creator, from Hearthstone, even some of the European Protoss players. Like, true. So you have been seeing more charge-based openers specifically for that kind of situation, to be hyper safe. Meanwhile, SCV Scout does scout the proxy gateway. At the same time, NightMare, he does not scout the proxy racks, but only one racks. Again, the SCVs, they do turn back around. Initially, I'm pretty sure Maru, he planned to proxy 2 racks, but because one of them got scouted, he did deviate away, he did adjust. We have a safety bunker back at home as Maru, he already scouted the gateway. So getting a safety bunker, factories on the way, double gas opener, so again, very safe play here by Maru. The downside is that his racks is not at home, so his reinforcements, his army here is going to be very limited to defend. At the same time, I can say the same about NightMare. Reaver moves in, the Adept is still just barely going to pop out. NightMare, he'll lose 1 probe. Yeah, 1 probe goes down, late reaction there out of NightMare. We'll lose 1 worker. Just the 1. More Reapers are on the way. At the same time, Stalker does poke in. Again, there are 0 army units to defend, but the Reapers, they are turning around. Okay, they race back home. In a sense, damage is being done. There is no CC, so we can turn this into a 1 base all-in. Actually, this might just be a 1 base all-in. Let's go. Yep, we're getting up to 3 axes. So a 3-1-1 setup here. 1 base all-in out of Maru. I believe he can pull the boys with this as well. So just hyper all-in. And again, this is what we expect. Like, I don't expect Maru to ever get a 3rd CC in this series. No shot. Unless we load into, like, Tokamak or Maganatha. Like, those 2 maps is, like, a higher chance of that happening. But for the most part, all-in's what we expect. The NightMare scout the main. He did see the factory. That is true. He did not. He just can't see the Raxes. Like he cannot see far enough to see the Raxes. He saw the factory and the building starport. So he has very limited information. Technically, for all he knows, instead of 2 more Raxes, there could be a CC. Right? There could be a command center on the high ground further back. So NightMare, he's trying to assume what's going on here. The army's building up. And once again, this is hitting without stim, right? There's no stim with this. It hits even faster. We have tanks. We should be getting banshees, and we can pull the boys with this as well. Yo, unless we try to expand? Question mark? No. Okay. I was about to say, like, we can't afford that. That's not what this is built for. Wake is on the way. What do we have here? We have a Robo in production. We have 3-gate. Yeah, 3-gate blink here out of NightMare. Again, this is relatively safe to work with. As long as we don't skip warpins, as long as we don't really take up too much. We also need to be active ahead of time as well. NightMare, he's afraid about drop play, so the Stalkers are not out on the map. Uh-oh. And here comes Maru. Here he comes. He's going to have 2 tanks. Okay, so he's going to have 2 tanks. He's going to have 1 Banshee. The boys are being pulled. And again, it's all or nothing for Maru. As again, NightMare, he can't really slow this down. He pokes in once, the army's already here. The army's already here. He has to try to slow down the tanks, but the tanks are getting within range of the shield battery. He does get 1. Ooh, he does not, never mind. Yeah, 1 tank does siege, does barely focus it down. As 1 tank left, lock-ons are brutal. The Immortal's on the way. That is Nartos' pylon. Tank is being repaired. Oh, and NightMare is going for the tank. The repairs are brutal. The tank survives. He punishes the stalkers. And Maru's done it. Maru, he's done it. He breaks on through, takes down the pylon, depowers the robo. Tank is forcing its way forward. And again, NightMare, he wasn't able to slow this down. He wasn't able to get the tanks either. Boys are being pulled. And Maru, he will overwhelm. He will overwhelm. Takes down all the boys, takes down the immortals as well. And there's just nothing left. There's nothing here. There's a couple of stalkers, but they're pinned against the wall. And GG gets called. GG gets called. Maru, he will take a 2-0 lead. GG. Whew. GG, well played with that. Maru, he is a 1 game away from claiming the series. And again, NightMare, alas, he was not able to be as active as he needed to be. If you remember, he was ready for drop play. He was ready for stalkers in the main base, stalkers at the natural. If you remember, he also had incomplete information. He didn't see the Raxes. He didn't know how many Raxes there were. He didn't know how committed this was on one base. Looks like he wasn't really expecting a 1 base all in. Again, he saw the factory, he saw the starport, but he didn't know if there was a CC or extra Raxes, and he never confirmed. Never did confirm. GG, well played with that. So we're getting into game number 3. Let's go. Looks like all-ins are back on the menu. If you didn't hear what we were saying earlier, we did emphasize that Maru, he is one. We had this big speech about how Maru's like very one note, and how he does nothing but all-ins in TvP nowadays, and in TvZ as well. This is a discussion that we spoke about. How there are certain players that do commit to that, and there are others that don't. But here we go. As spawning in the bottom right-hand side of Last Fantasy, we have our South Korean Terran player. We have the blue Terran, representing Team Vitality, leading the series 2-0. It is Maru. And spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, we have his opponent. We have the red Protoss player. We have the red Protoss himself. It is NightMare. Here we go. There's a short on StarCraft Historian where Clem says if early game isn't perfect, toss almost always wins. I would push back a little bit against that, and I would say that's like applicable both ways. We speak about this all the time, how TvP is very momentum based. It's very momentum based, and if you get a lead early on, it can be difficult to recover from that. That goes for both Terran and Protoss. Where Protoss, I mean, we saw that previously, if you remember, in the previous matchup, where if you take too many losses early on, then you fall behind and you can't quite recover. We were discussing that during the Ryung series, for example. Likewise applicable to the Terran player as well. Terran and for Protoss for this matchup. Which is why we try to emphasize that this is probably like the most momentum-based matchup, just because once you gain momentum, it can be difficult to take that away. As Maru does open up 2 ranks. So 2 ranks Reaper out of Maru. And welcome to Last Fantasy. Let's go. Last Fantasy, the most vetoed map in the map pool, but here in a best of 5, you get to see it a little bit more often. Let's go. Go. Maru does make his way in towards the main. And does what his opponent. Now he's aware of where NightMare is. Likewise, NightMare setting up a gateway across the map. And this time Maru is expanding. Let's go. He does expand, does take his own natural base. Behind this, going a little bit old school, going into not just a 3 ranks, never mind, going into a 4 ranks stim timing. Let's go. A very hefty stim timing. If you remember, these builds were a lot more regular, a lot more frequent a couple of years ago at this point. Back on Data C, for example. Back on, sorry, Side Delta is what I meant to be saying. Back on Side Delta, back in the previous meta. A couple of years ago at this point. Back then, a way to shut this down would be to open up Robo. It was back with Phoenix Colossus and Robo openers and faster Colossus-based play as well. But a lot of this comes down to whether or not NightMare can scout what's going on. So far, 2 probe kills. Reapers are back off. And this can hit like a truck. This can hit like an absolute truck. Stim is on the way. Mass Marine is building up. Again, if this gets scattered ahead of time, you can open up Robo into a bait into fast Colossus, and once the first Colossus arrives, you completely shut this down. But currently, the meta is to go for earlier Blink, go for a Twilight Council into Blink. Sometimes you delay your splash damage, you delay your Robo. Twilight Council is now on the way, bearing in mind this was a 3-gate opener. Late Twilight Council out of NightMare, late tech. Scout is denied. The Scout is denied, and now he does see the Mass Eminent Buyer, so he has a better idea as to what's going on. It is important that he's able to shave off whatever Marines he can while he can. So far, he has not gotten a Marine. Doesn't bode well. Depth shade into the mineral line. Stim is almost complete. Bearing in mind, this does hit without any medevac, so every Stim is going to count. Every Stim hurts that much more. And you can pull the boys with this. This isn't all in. But for those who are curious, this isn't all in. Maru, he will soon send it. Again, NightMare, he has to try to slow this down, pick away at anything he can. Maru does scout the proxy. Shield batteries on the way. So two pylons, one shield battery. He'll have the energy overcharge. NightMare is getting ready. As here we go. The boys are being pulled. The all-in is upon us. Back at home, what do we have to defend? Force fields are going to be ideal, true. Now, there are a couple of things here about Last Fantasy. You can see how narrow this ramp is. If we can force field this ramp ahead of time and cut the army in half... Never mind. But we could have cut the army in half there. Again, one force field is all it takes on that ramp. Alas, not able to be proactive enough. Does force field. Marines are stimming in. They take down the pylon. Thankfully, there's another. Boys are being pulled, and again, NightMare, can he hold on? Down to 5 Stalkers. Yeah, the Immortal's just so far away. He's going to focus it down. Down goes the pylon. Everything gets depowered. And now just going for the Robo. The army is heavily overstimmed, but it may not matter. It may not matter. Maru, he busts on in. He breaks through, takes out all the Stalkers, takes out all the workers. And again, NightMare, he never got into the main. He never got into the main base. For all he knew, it could have been a 2-on-1, could have been a 3-max, but GG gets pulled, and Maru will take the series 3-0, advancing on and qualifying for the main event. GG. GG, well played, Maru. He will claim the series, he will advance on. Again, NightMare, I don't know how much StarCraft he's been watching as of late. As we mentioned, he has been retired for quite some time. And fun fact, in his retirement, we have seen kind of Maru's style as of late over the past 2-3 months, referring to his play in GSL, in RSL, in EWC, at DreamHack as well. This is what we expect out of him. We expect non-stop all-ins in TvP. It's what he's been doing. And I was most curious to see if he has been adjusting, if he's been changing his style, because unfortunately, because he's so predictable, that's why he's been struggling against these other top Protosses, because they know how he plays. I'm referring to Hero, referring to Classic, referring to Max, referring to all these other top Protoss players. So that's where typically Maru does struggle. But here, hey, he pops off with the all-ins. And again, NightMare, welcome back. Welcome back, Pappy. Welcome back. Aye. GG, well played. Again, I'm most curious to see if NightMare does stick around, if he plays in more tournaments. For those that are curious, NightMare, he retired a couple of months ago. He stepped away from the game. He started competing in Deadlock instead. But a couple of days ago, it was announced that he did return. Or I say return. It was announced that he left his Deadlock team. He left his team, his Deadlock team. He's no longer competing in that esports, and we saw that he did sign up for the Woody TV qualifier for the Summer Championship. That was a couple of days ago. Now he's here as well, and I'm curious if this is a one-off thing where he's just poking his toes in to see what's happening in StarCraft, and then he steps away, or if he dives in head first, and we see more of NightMare in the future, in the coming weeks. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of NightMare. We'll see if he continues to compete, because I was honestly quite impressed with his play here, even though he went down to Maru. Again, that's probably partly just because he's unfamiliar with how Maru is playing currently. When it comes to the previous series, though, I was very impressed with his play against Ryung. He was able to take down, like, I was generally favoring Ryung in that series just because he's been around, but NightMare was able to shut him down and show off some nice defensive play as well against a bit of a more standard Terran opponent. And taking down Ryung did fall to Maru here, but again, like, I feel like a lot of that is just kind of being aware of your opponent's stylistic tendencies and what they play and how they approach the matchup. So again, we'll see if NightMare does show up for more qualifiers or more weeklies, more tournaments. We'll see. We shall see. Again, NightMare, when it came to his results in the Summer Championship qualifier, he took down Gumiho, and if I remember correctly, he took down Classic as well, right? Let's see. No, sorry. He took down Hearthstone, took down Gumiho, and took a map off of Max. That's it. Took a map of Max. So again, like, NightMare, he's been getting some pretty good results here, but we'll see. We'll see if he continues to compete and if he returns. If he returns, or if not. We'll find out. But GG, well played with that. Congratulations to our top 2 players here. Exclamation mark B in the chat if you guys want to have a look at the back yourselves. We have Maru and we have Creator, both making it through, both qualifying. And again, the kind of 2 sides of an opposite coin here, where Maru, he committed to non-stop 2 base and 1 base all-ins. More importantly, these all-ins were hitting a lot faster as well, typically, for game 1 and game 2. And likewise catching his opponent off guard here in game 3. Meanwhile, when it came to Percival versus Creator, Percival, he was also going for 2 base all-ins, but very different 2 base all-ins, very different kind of builds, typically hitting much later instead, and Creator was able to shut him down. So again, Creator showing off his defensive PvT, at least outside of Pylon where he was the aggressor, and Maru showing off his aggressive TvP. GG, well played. There is no seeding match. So both Maru and Creator, they do make it through, and they'll be joining Estrella and SOS, if I recall correctly. I believe SOS did make it through the Americas qualifier. Double checking. Yes. So far, it's going to be SOS, Estrella, Creator, and Maru. When it comes to other players making it through these qualifiers, we have the European qualifier. The European qualifier is going to be right around the corner as well. It's going to be in a couple of days on the 12th of August. We should be able to cast that. I say that recently we have been a little bit unavailable. Unfortunately, just other things happening IRL, so we just haven't been able to cast as much as we typically do. But yes, RSL is going to be middle of the week, which is less than ideal. That's what I will say, but it's going to be middle of the week on the 12th/13th of August. And we should be able to cast that event. We should be able to. I'll do my best. I'll do my best to cover that event as well. When it comes to the rest of the broadcast here, when it comes to the rest of our schedule, bam! You can see it here. Now again, I did mention how we have been missing some broadcasts recently. Friday morning, we were scheduled to cast an event, and we weren't quite able to. Friday evening, Little League Cup Weekly, we weren't able to cover that. And this morning, RSL America's Qualifier, we weren't able to cover that either. I do apologize. Again, last night we were busy adminning the Uthermal 2v2 circuit, and then we're going to be adminning that event tonight as well. So we're working behind the scenes, and by the time it ended, it was 6 a.m. It was 6 a.m. in the morning, so it was quite an event to cover, is what I will say. Quite an event to cover. And I did have a vet appointment for our new pet bunnies. We have some new pet bunnies here. Did have a vet appointment at 10 a.m. So we wrapped up the Uthermal circuit at 6 a.m. I got 2 hours of sleep, and then I woke up, then I had to go and of course went to the vet to make sure our pets were checked out for the first time and everything was looking good. And fun fact, I got home at around 11:30, and as you can see, the RSL Americas qualifier was at 11 a.m. KST. That is noon. That is 12 p.m. AEST, half an hour later, which technically I could have casted, but I was so tired after being up all night with the Thermals events, after going to the vets, after only sleeping 2 hours. I could have tried to have covered that event as well, but then I would have been dead for this cast. I would have been absolutely just destroyed for this cast. So I did have to go to bed. I wasn't quite able to cover the Americas qualifier, so I do apologize. I believe that was casted by Bomyoja. Bomyoja did cover that event. And speaking of the thermal circuits, it's not on this schedule because we don't cast it, but we do admin the event. So myself, Kuro, alongside the rest of the admin team, shout out to Carowin, shout out to all the others working behind the scenes as well. We do work on that circuit. It's a very big event. It's the biggest 2v2 event out there, so it has a lot of hands on deck. There's a lot to do behind the scenes, so we are going to be working on that later on tonight as well. The 2v2 circuit, I believe, is going to be in 3 hours ish. 2.5 hours time. The Uthermal is going to be live with the 2v2 circuit, and again, we're going to be all over that event as well. We're going to be working on it behind the scenes. I could try to cast it via replays, but our schedule is so busy. Like, I don't know if I have any time to cover those replays, to be honest. Especially with the StarCraft Evolution League around the corner, especially with RSL starting back up again, of course. And all the Code for Giants Cup events. Like, there's just so much StarCraft happening right now. Our schedule is jam-packed. If you remember, I was like, oh, now that it's post-EWC, maybe we're going to have a little bit of a leaner period in time. And we did for like 2 weeks where we would only cast once a day. But moving forward, it's a really busy August. September looks a little bit more empty right now, but that's only because we're not in September. By the time that rolls around, it's going to fill up real fast and real quick. Jesus. I feel a little bit bad. Like, Stormgate just came out of early access with its 0.6 launch. I have no time to play Stormgate, man. We just have non-stop casting, non-stop StarCraft. So again, we're going to be back in 2.5 hours. I say we're going to be back. Uthermal's going to be live in 2.5 hours with the 2v2 circuit. We're going to be all over that, of course, working behind the scenes. Meanwhile, tomorrow we're going to be casting the Sparkling Tuna Cup. That is going to be the STC number 101. We had the 100 edition last week with a doubled prize pool, so a lot of hype, of course, with the Tuna Cup. Tomorrow we're going to be live with the Wardy TV Monday, and we also have another day of the circuit. Again, 3 days of the Thermal 2v2 circuit, 3 days back to back to back. We have Code for Giants Cup, the LATAM monthly. That's going to be on Tuesday. We have the RSL qualifier right after that, true, for the European region. We have the Pegasus Cup on Wednesday, we have the Pondcast on Thursday, we have Sunny Lake Cup, and we have potentially the return of the Turtle Tussle starting this week. We do have to iron some things out, but yes, the Turtle Tussle may be returning this week as well. We have the Platinum Esports League August edition. That's going to be this weekend. That's going to be coming up on Saturday. We have the StarCraft Evolution League Championship that also starts next weekend as well with the round of 16. Oh, sorry, with the round of 32 even, so round of 28. There's a lot of content. A lot of StarCraft. Again, it's one of those things where even though EWC did conclude, doesn't stop us from, if we really wanted to, we could cast twice a day, every single day. But it would be nice to sleep and would be nice to spend some time elsewhere, outside of just non-stop casting StarCraft. Crazy. Also, a big shout out to Spegglets. Thank you so much for the subscription for 4 months. Thank you, puppy. Thank you. Do appreciate it. Thank you so much. Of course, Cranky Ducklings go to the vet. True. Where are the Zergs, Pappy? Oh, they don't exist anymore. What do you mean? They haven't been around for years. It's fine. We're used to it. Thanks for all the hard work. Oh, thank you. We appreciate the kind words. We appreciate it. For sure. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. And again, do check out, if you haven't heard of it before, Uthermal, he's running the biggest 2v2 circuit in the history of StarCraft. It's a massive event. The best of the best players in the world are competing in 2v2. It's a lot of good fun. It has a unique format as well, and it's gonna last the entire month. Like, yesterday was day 1, today we have day 2, tomorrow we have day 3, and that's still just the beginning of the group stage. We still have more group stage next week, and then the playoff bracket as well. So 3 weeks of Uthermal 2v2 circuit. It's a lot of good fun. Again, we may cast it in the future via replays, but I don't think we have time to be honest. I think if we cast it from replays, we might cast the playoffs, maybe just the playoffs. We might skip the group stage just because there are so many matches happening, so many games. It's crazy. Regardless, GG will play it, and we'll see you guys next time. For some more StarCraft. We're gonna be live on this channel in 24 hours with the Sparkling Tuna Cup. That'll be our next cast here on the Ducklings. Otherwise, we'll see you next time. Until then, ciao, papi, ciao. If you want to support us, you can follow us on all the socials. on all the socials, exclamation mark socials in the chat. We do stream over on YouTube at the same time. Oh god. We do stream on YouTube at the same time. We're here on Twitch, we're on YouTube, we're on Kick, we're on Facebook, and we are on TikTok as well. Thanks for watching. Until next time, ciao, bye, ciao. Till next time.